Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay. Hare Krishna, devotees of the Lord. So we're going to have our questions and answers session, which we're going to be doing weekly for a little while. Means there'll be less questions each week. This week we have just we've got 8. We have 8 questions, I think. Let me just check. We've got 8 questions. Yeah. So, first of all, some prayers. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasnaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshtarne Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pramanityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. So yes, devotees, we've got 8 questions. And so I don't think it's going to take a long time to go through them, so let's get started. If one has disabilities and can't bow down in front of the deities, what will be the option for them? So the first 6 questions, including this one, are from our Vaishnav etiquette seminar. So if a person has disabilities and can't bow down in front of the deities, what will be the option for them? Well, you know, in Krishna consciousness, we are not, I don't know if you'll all understand this term, but I'll explain it. We are not smarters. Smarter means a person who just insists on the rules and regulations, regardless of any considerations of any sort, like having disabilities, for example. So, therefore, if you've really got a disability and you really can't bow down, then just with real humility in your heart and praying for forgiveness for not being able to actually bow down due to the disability, just stand there, offer pranams like this, very, very humbly, in a mood of submission. Yeah. Just do that and don't worry too much. When Lord Chaitanya was here, one devotee, whose name I can't remember, anyway, what was his name? Let me just check his name. He's kind of famous devotee. Anyway, I can't remember the name. But this one devotee, he was a very sincere devotee, but very simple. And the Muslims had a sort of a strategy that they would convert people to Islam by saying that if a Hindu was sprinkled with water, Muslim water, there was some process for making water, Muslim water. I don't know what, but anyway, some process. Then the person was a Muslim, whether they wanted to be or not. And there was nothing a person could do about it, even if they just had absolutely no interest in Islam whatsoever. They would be considered a Muslim. So this devotee, he didn't want to be a Muslim. So he went to some of the smarter Brahmins and asked them, what can I do? And they said, sure, no problem. All you do, you just got to drink something like a liter of boiling ghee. Which means you die, of course. So that was their solution. But he didn't like the sound of that, so he went to Lord Chaitanya and asked him, what should I do? And Lord Chaitanya laughed. And Lord Chaitanya said, just chant Hare Krishna. And that was that. Yes. So, this sort of excessive attachment to rules and regulations just for the sake of it, in Krishna consciousness, we don't accept that at all. Yeah. Okay, so second question. What is the daily action to start practicing humility for a very beginner in Krishna consciousness? Yes, so for a very beginner to start cultivating humility, I'd say there are two things. One is to chant Hare Krishna very attentively and nicely. That will cleanse the heart. The other is to render service very humbly to the devotees, to the spiritual master, and to all the devotees, to become servant of the servant of the servant. If we act in ways which are humble, even if our attitude is not yet humble, but just by doing what is humble, humility will come. This is how it works in Krishna consciousness. Just like in bygone, maybe 100 plus years ago in India, children would be married at school age or early school age. And of course they wouldn't live together, at that point, but the girl would be trained. She would regularly cook something, even though she's just a little girl, maybe 5, 6, 7 years old. She would cook something and deliver it to her husband, who was living in the sort of, just around the corner, something like that, in the vicinity. And even though she had, at that age, no idea of what is love or what is a boy as distinct from a girl even, but by rendering service like that, gradually love would develop in her heart for a husband. So by the time they finally started to actually live together when they're, anyway, older, probably like maybe late teens or something along those lines, then real affection would already be there. 3, if a devotee enters the temple and has books or beads in his or her hands, and there's no place to put them somewhere or to ask someone to hold them, how can a devotee offer obeisances, especially Panchanga Pranam? I've seen some devotees put their beads on the back of their head. Right. I've seen too. When they offer Ashtanga Pranam. But it's possible for a jiva in a male body, but how to act for those in female bodies? Well, if we think hard, we can find so many situations where it becomes really challenging to follow one of these rules. Yeah, it's not that hard. But, like I said, we're not here just to follow rules at any cost. That either you follow the rule or you must give up your life. If you use your intelligence, maybe you'll find somewhere you can put your things. But otherwise, I would say, just take your things, hold onto them, bow down, chant pranam mantras, and just leave it at that. Okay. I think that's the most sensible thing. Is it raining? Oh, it is. Okay. Four, when we enter the temple, what mantras and in what order do we say? And should we say them loudly? Does this procedure work for places where there are no temples, but there are some spaces rented for weekly programs and there are deities? Okay, yeah. So when you enter a temple room or a place where there's deities, generally speaking, the best thing to do is to bow down. If you're a man, you can do Ashtanga pranams. If you're a lady, you can do Panchanga, or if you're a man, you can also do Panchanga, but Ashtanga is better. And mantras, generally the suggestion would be to chant Srila Prabhupada's pranam mantras. If you're already initiated or in the process of coming up to initiation, then you could also chant the pranam mantra or mantras of your spiritual master. But Srila Prabhupada is our founder Acharya. He has a unique and very special position. Therefore, it's often a good idea to chant Srila Prabhupada's pranam mantras. Yeah. So that's what I'd say. Chant Prabhupada's pranam mantras at least. If you're going into the temple room where there are deities, or a rented place but there are deities there. If there are no deities there, if there's no altar set up, if there's an altar but there's no deities, there's just pictures, You should do the same thing. If there's no altar, then there's no real need to bow down. I mean, unless there's some very senior devotees you might bow down to. 5, when a devotee gets initiation, should he wear kanti malas made of only tulsi with no silver or other stones implanted in it? Is that the best variant for spiritual life? Or is it not a big deal to wear kanti malas mixed with tulsi and anything else? Well, we did make the point a few days ago, I forget exactly when, but in the course of just the last week, that really the best thing for neck beads is just to wear tulsi beads. It's really the best thing, because they are what you get protection from. You're not going to get protection from silver, or even gold. I mean, spiritual protection at least. But tulsi, you're definitely going to get great spiritual protection. Therefore, it's best just to use tulsi beads. You could possibly get what you might call some nice tulsi beads, some special ones, so they don't look so plain possibly, but at least tulsi beads. And decorative, really decorative things like stones and silver and metals and all that, they're not helpful spiritually. Yeah. So, it's not an absolute rule that you just cannot. But if we consider degree of Krishna consciousness and degree of benefit from wearing different either woods or metals with tulsi, then just tulsi is the best. If we follow these etiquettes as they are, will it help us in becoming a good devotee? Yes, it'll help you very much, because, otherwise you won't know what to do and what not to do. And you might easily do something which is detrimental spiritually, thinking that it's beneficial. It's very possible. Sooner or later, it's almost inevitable. If you don't know what to do and what not to do, it's just inevitable that sooner or later you will do some detrimental things. Yes, so if you follow these etiquettes very nicely, then that they will help you tremendously to become a very good devotee. Okay, so now those are the questions about Vaishnava etiquette. Now there are 2 general questions. First one, what is karma? Well, that's a good question. It's a very important question. Normally we would assume that devotees are aware of this, but but every day people are coming to Krishna consciousness for the first time, and they don't understand these things clearly. So it's a very important question then for everyone to understand, including very new people. So what is karma? Generally speaking, the term karma means action and reaction. Actually, they're different depending on the context. There can be different meanings to this word karma. But in the broad sense, in the most general sense, the word karma means action and the reactions to the action. Yeah. So this is action on the material level, not action done as service to Krishna, but just action as done by ordinary people who are just going to work and coming home, and they're not devotees. So every action, for every action, there's a concomitant reaction. And once you've done the action, you cannot escape the reaction. You cannot say that, well, I'll just take the action and I will not take the reaction. Once you do the action, the reaction will come. It's just a question of when. It's not a question of if it will come. It's just a question of when it will come, which may be in the course of this life or could be in the next life. That's possible. So the example is given sometimes to just illustrate the principle of unavoidability, how it's not possible to avoid the reactions. The example is given of a coin. When you have a coin, you have the head side and the tail side. And you cannot say, I will just take the head side and I will not take the tail side. The two, heads and tails, they're just two parts of one thing. And when you've got one, you've got the other, unavoidably. You know, you might try, if it were possible, I mean, it would definitely be very difficult, but you might try to cut the coin through, not from, right through the side. And then you might say, well, the tail side, we don't have it any longer. But you've created another tail side, in effect. So this is karma. So for people who are not devotees of Krishna, whatever they do, there will be reactions. Like equal reaction. So if you do something very good, you'll get very good reaction. If you do something bad, you'll get bad reaction. If you do something very bad, you'll get very bad reaction. Yes, like this. So this is karma. This process of action and reaction to non-Krishna conscious activities. Okay, last question. I get angry when a devotee calls and starts chatting with me, even though I do not know them properly. I know it is not right. kindly let me know how to reduce my anger. Right. A simple answer to that would be you want to reduce your anger, you should increase your chanting, because your chanting will pacify your heart and free you from lust, anger, greed, envy, pride, all these things. Good chanting, very attentive, very regular chanting will at first reduce all these things, and you'll see how they're reduced. And gradually, at least in the very advanced state, the devotee becomes free from lust, anger, greed, envy, and so on. But at least, even in the early stages, if we really chant Hare Krishna very nicely, it has that cleansing effect on the heart, that it removes these contaminations. It's something like a medicine. In fact, I was just reading today, Srila Prabhupada was saying that chanting the holy names is our medicine, and prasadam is our diet. The context was when a person is very sick, then they have to take some medicine, and they may well have a restricted diet. And by this combination, their disease condition is cured. So, similarly, these lust, anger, greed, etc., these are like diseases of the soul, diseases of the heart. And when you've got a disease, you need some medicine to cure it. So the medicine is, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, bhavoshadi. Bhavoshadi. The medicine is the chanting of the holy names. The diet is to only take prasadam, nothing else. Yeah. So, if you do like this, if you increase the quantity and particularly the quality of your chanting of Hare Krishna, then you'll see very quickly how your anger is at least reduced, noticeably and significantly. It works like that. That is Krishna consciousness. And so when the devotees call and start chatting with you, even though you may not know them at all, but you'll be very happy to get the association of a devotee. That without making an effort, I got some devotee association. Just came to me like that. Oh, what good fortune. Hare Krishna. So those are our questions. Tune in next Sunday and we'll have a look at some more questions. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.